Derek Rensing. I'm on the FreeWave marketing team. Excited for another edition of FreeWave's Tech Talk series. This week, we're focusing on oil and gas. I'm really excited to have who we have on today.
My name is David Blanco. I am the Director of Technical Operations and Business Development at Automation Solutions. I'm gonna go grab a glass of water real fast. I started off as an application engineer, so being the front line of the person who integrates, installs, and troubleshoots our software.
My name is Reagan. I am a sales manager for Cap Logistics. My parents made it tough on me with the spelling. We're a customized transportation solution provider and focused on uptime.
My name is Greg Corey, and I'm the Director of Customer and Technical Support for FreeWave Technologies. Came with the house, it's all built into the wall, and we manufacture wireless data transceivers.
Excited to kick this off, and I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's start with you, David. With the desire for more information to make decisions being very rampant, what are some of the ways producers are addressing the desire for more information?
I think that they are trying to, not only to your question's point about basically what are producers doing to address the desire for more information. I think that it's important to know that a lot of times, at least when it comes to telemetry systems, SCADA systems, there traditionally has only been one client, ideally, right? There was the operations SCADA system. And way back before SCADA even existed, when it was first emerging, they were even just going to bring back 5, 10, 15 points, some pressure, some valve statuses, some ESDs. And what has largely driven this desire for more data, I think, is their ability to gather more of it. So particularly with edge computing, that's the first part of answering that question of what can I do with more data is how do I get more data? So at least from AutoSolve's perspective, that's where we come into play when it comes to the IoT conversation.
What is the biggest advantage of edge computing for your clients that you're seeing out there? I know you touched on some of this, but if you could sum it up, how would you do so?
It helps them solve old problems in new ways and new problems in new ways, basically. You've got your traditional sites that will have had, just historically, no matter what you put out there, right? Radio through a pine forest. Usually a recipe for struggling communications. And that's a problem that's not going to go away until we have, a global fiber network. So that's probably, I guess, I see that quite often, especially in East Texas, Louisiana. And the way that we would solve it like that, for example, is backfill after comm loss. So when the wind's not blowing the pine needles around, you get data. And once the pine needles are blocking it, our software on the FreeWave platform is just continually getting that data, and we'll send it up when we can, so the operators still have that data. And then for the new solutions, it's traditionally a SCADA HMI, the human machine interface, the screen that an operator is going to be staring at 24/7 to make sure that their pipeline going over the Mississippi River doesn't have a sudden loss of pressure on the other end of on the other side of the river.
That makes a ton of sense. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. I don't know, Reagan or Greg, if you guys have anything to add there in terms of just kind of, the biggest advantage of edge computing that you're seeing out there for clients.
Yeah, I have something to add. So I think the value that edge computing can add to existing installations is that it allows you to add new capability to an older system. So a lot of these companies have made significant hardware investments in the hardware they have out in the field. And in order to gain a new capability, sometimes they're told that they have to rip and replace all of their existing hardware out there. People are really reluctant to do that for a number of reasons. It may be tried and true, trusted hardware that they've used for a long time. It may be cost prohibitive. So by adding a FreeWave radio that has edge computing capability, they can essentially modernize the network and add new features without having to change out existing hardware.
Derek, kind of what we're focused on is, trying to help our customers to be as efficient as possible and maximize their uptime. And so, whatever that takes for our customers, I mean, this isn't necessarily, my field, but kind of what I'm hearing is, looking for places for customers to increase efficiency, continue to be profitable. We oftentimes are a fallback for our customers when a lot of these things, unfortunately, don't go exactly as planned. But we're still really interested in kind of the opposite of what many of our customers call downtime or catastrophic failure. and helping them to be as efficient as they possibly can. We'll kind of focus in on that a little bit later, and where I think we sort of fit into the conversation. But it's very interesting for us going forward.
I'm interested in this, Greg, and your thoughts on what impact will 5G have upon data collection in the oil and gas field operations?
Great question. So the impact of 5G upon oil and gas field operations it's kind of a mixed bag, admittedly. 5G is going to have some advantages for certain applications, and then in other applications, maybe not so much. Personally, I actually think 5G has been slightly oversold. We could say in that it's not going to be the be all to end all when it comes to communication and cellular networks. So the biggest advantage of 5G is obviously a faster data rate. So you can push, I think it's up to a gigabit per second of data with 5G. It's important to note that with 5G, in order to get the fastest speed out of it, you have to be operating at a very high frequency. So true 5G, I think, is somewhere in the 28 gigahertz range. So when you have a high frequency like true 5G, it doesn't travel long distances. So at that true 5G level, I think the effective range is something like 2,000 feet or 3,000 feet. So people living in a dense urban area are going to be able to benefit from that speed boost because the distances are so short in transmission. So when you apply that to an oil and gas situation where the majority of these installations are remote, they're never going to be able to achieve true 5G speeds just because the remoteness of the location. FreeWave networks, we have devices that are a couple hundred feet apart. We have devices that are 10, 20 miles apart. So when it comes to 5G, it's not going to be appropriate for a lot of data collection in oil and gas operations just due to the range limitation of 5G, true 5G.
We know oil and gas has a lot of different industrial protocols. Where do you see that kind of shaping up in the future? Do you foresee, these protocols kind of consolidating? Will one dominant industrial protocol emerge?
So there's a number of different industrial protocols that are used in field applications. FreeWave sees Modbus probably most commonly. There's the ROC protocol, there's the Total Flow protocol, there's Allen Bradley, DF1. There's all these different protocols that are used across a number of devices. In terms of consolidation, there have been some recent efforts to consolidate those different protocols. And with that consolidation, we can talk about software conversion. So taking all of those different protocols, putting it into a single piece of software, and then converting it to something else. We can also talk about using a different protocol entirely between devices.
So, Reagan, how's it going?
Doing well. How about you, Derek?
Good. What does the planning process look like for oil and gas plants, and what's taken into consideration? Quarterly, yearly planning. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
The planning process is something that's really interesting for us, and for a long time, our industry. We're a customized freight forwarding service, and for many years, our focus has been on minimizing our customers' downtime, which is very reactionary. And so we're really interested in partnering with companies like FreeWave to really focus in on what does uptime look like and what is maximizing profitability for our customers. And trying to get them as much information on how to do that as possible. Oftentimes our customers call those LPOs or lost potential opportunities, or lost profit opportunities is another way that they summarize those. And they oftentimes plan on a yearly basis. And so they usually use the spring and fall quarters to plan their year out as far as required projects to keep the plants up and running. And so those are usually oil out and gas out projects where they're actually basically turning the spigot off at the plant to get into it and figure out, not only what they need to fix, but what has to be fixed for them to be back in the regulation as far as in the black, if you will, with the EPA and a bunch of other regulatory organizations.
What are the most extreme cases you have seen where plants have needed to bring their plants back online? And what have you done, or what could you do to help that?
Yeah, I think the planning process is really important, and then us helping to partner with companies to help our customers maximize their uptime and their profitability. Unfortunately, like we've said, 80% of catastrophic failures do happen without warning. And so we want to be there for our customers when those come up. But planning for those, we've seen extreme cases where plants are shut down with the most minuscule part that you would never think of. And a lot of times right now, our customers are really focused on not keeping a lot of inventory on hand. They're looking to actually offload that onto their vendors so that they don't have that pipe, that gasket, that shim, whatever it is on the shelf, and then leading on us to almost have on-demand inventory for them, so that when those issues come up, they can call on that and have a quick response to whatever that problem might be.
With the recent downturn in oil and gas, will that lead to an increase or decrease, do you guys think, as far as investing in communication, automation, IoT endeavors, everything we're talking about today? In general, do you guys think where is that going to lead?
In the recent downturn in oil and gas, what type of investment level are we going to see into automation and communication systems? It's going to be a completely mixed bag. There's going to be some projects that are definitely cut back. The projects that are still going to move forward are going to have to show a real ROI. It can't be a pie in the sky or, hey, this would be nice to have. It needs to make a clear difference to operations to either, increase production or increase efficiency. And we're going to need a quantitative value to express that.
David, what are your thoughts?
When it comes to what kind of investments people are going to make in their automation systems, I think I can get it down to almost a tweet. And that is, they're going to be doing less large rip and replace projects and more niche applications of IoT. I don't think that the government has given any sort of relief to oil and gas companies when it comes to any sort of regulatory compliance with EPA emissions flaring. So, for example, products and projects that target cutting costs there are going to help. I don't know if I see a large investment in necessarily production increase, but a lot of investment in what can cut costs, what can reduce trips out to the field, and they're going to be small cookie cutter projects across the board.
David, I think that's exactly right. I mean, that's what we're seeing as well, is that the EPA projects and the projects that are going to be required are going to continue forward. And those are probably going to be smaller bunch projects. And many of them, the bigger projects that folks had planned, we're seeing a lot of those get pushed out, especially on the downstream side, to later on this year.
Great stuff. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys joining. Looking forward to doing more of these.